the senator made a pledge to the town of Clinton that she would come the first Monday of every month, whenever possible. We realize certainly that...
This Wednesday.
I'm sorry, every Wednesday.
It's budget season.
It's budget season, right. And so, again, we realize that the State House is going to become overwhelmed as well with this process. So we're not going to hold you to that if you can't be here, but we certainly realize that your intent is to try to be here, and we certainly appreciate that.
It'll be the third.
Right.
It'll be
Okay.
once a month.
Well, we certainly
No matter
appreciate
what.
that. I know when you came, Senator, to the last meeting, you did speak to that in order to help you down at the State House, some of the issues would have to be coming from this board to let you know what are important to this board and the needs of the people of Clinton. And part of what I recognized, and I was very pleased to have received an invitation in the mail about your community health fair tomorrow evening.
It's not mine, it's the items and it's...
Well, the items, but I know that you're going to participate, and Representative Naughton and someone from Senator Kennedy's office and Mr. McGovern, Congressman McGovern. And maybe you could just share with us, because I know that personally from my perspective that the town of Clinton, obviously we have several senior housing developments in this town, and we have federally and state-funded housing as well. And certainly, we have all seen and realized how costly health benefits have become, not only for the working class, but certainly for the elderly. And we've all read and realized how impossible it's becoming for some elderly to have prescriptions filled that they certainly need. And so certainly from my perspective, that would be one of the main things that I would be looking at as far as how can we be of help from the town in instructing you as what's important for the elderly and their needs.
Well, I think you're going to find as you do your budget this year that one of your concerns is going to be your health insurance issues, because that's jumped so dramatically. Healthcare premiums are going to be up between 15 and 20% this year. But one of the interesting, tragic things I can share with you is that we went into managed care about 10 years ago to use it as a cost controlling mechanism. Mm-hmm. And this year, cost of healthcare premiums are going to be back up to where they were 10 years ago. In other words, they went down with managed care, and now they're going back up. And with a jump of 15 to 20% next year, we're going to exceed, we're right back on that same tragic path we were on before. And the question remains, how are we going to deliver our health care? The state is trying very hard to find a variety of ways to help. One of the, there are going to be many things presented tomorrow night, and I think the item should be commended for putting this on for the people of Clinton. But one of the newest programs that began on April 1st, actually, is the Pharmacy Advantage Plan, which will help seniors to pay for their pharmacy goods, because anybody over 65 who's on Medicare, who does not have any kind of pharmacy plan, or who is under 65 and is disabled and who works less than 40 hours a week, is able to participate in this program, which really means just about any senior is able to participate in the program, and any disabled person is able to participate in the program. And what it will do, it has a sliding scale for premiums, and it has a sliding scale for deductibles. And anybody who qualified for something called the Senior Pharmacy Program, and there are many people here in Clinton who've participated in the Senior Pharmacy Program and have found it very helpful in paying for their pharmacy goods. But anybody who is in that program already will be grandfathered in, so they automatically become part of the program. They have no premium, they have no deductible, and after they spend as much as $2,000 or 10% of their income out of pocket, anybody, whether they qualified for senior pharmacy, or whether they could have any kind of income. But if they spend $2,000 or 10% of their income, the state will pay the remainder of their pharmacy needs, their prescription needs, for the remainder of the year, which is a tremendous help. It is a tremendous help for seniors and for the disabled who have very expensive maintenance drugs that they're on. I think the problems that we're seeing this year is a system that's out of whack. We have a healthcare system that is having all kinds of problems. The hospitals are having problems. Home health care is having problems. It seems that everyone is having problems this year. And it comes at a time when we have less money to work with. We can't tell you next time I come here, which will be the first Wednesday in May, I'll tell you exactly where we are with the budget. We'll have a much better idea of what our revenues are then. That will be the time when the House will be discussing their budget, by the way. They'll be debating their budget that very week that I'll be here. The Senate budget will be the first or second week in June, so we have about three or 4 weeks beyond that. But we can tell you fairly well by then what your Chapter 70 money is going to look like. We can talk about your Chapter 90 money. We'll have a much better sense. But at the moment, we're concerned because we're going to have an economy problem, and we have less money to spend because of the question 4 issue that people voted to be able to get the tax roll back, which they have now. But what that means is each year for the next 3 years, we will start to see $330 million or thereabouts taken out of our revenue stream. That comes to $1.2 billion. We're going to feel it. We're going to feel it in our towns. We're going to feel it in our social programs. We're going to feel it in a variety of places. So healthcare is just one of those issues. One area that I think I'd like to announce, if I could, is that on May 11th, the Senior Center is having a luncheon to honor their volunteers. And we're not sure where that's going to be yet, but we've been able to get Secretary of Elder Affairs, Lillian Glickman, to be the guest speaker that day.
Oh, wonderful.
And that will be a wonderful opportunity, because I've long wanted to sort of show off Clinton to her. And I think you've got some wonderful senior programs here, and I'd like her, if we can, to sort of take a quick look at some of those programs and see how she may be of help to you. She's the one whose office is overseeing the implementation of the Pharmacy Plus program. I'm sure she'll talk about it. I'm sure she'll try to encourage some of the seniors who are there to think about participating in the program. For some seniors, it's going to be wonderful. For seniors, obviously, who have heavy-duty prescription needs, it's going to be wonderful. For seniors who have less heavy-duty prescription needs and who have higher incomes, it may be something they should think about and talk about with a Shine counselor to see if this is the appropriate program for them. It's not for everybody. It really, the more prescription needs you have, the more it's for you. So those are some of the issues. We're in the midst right now of all kinds of hearings on the 4,000 or 5,000 bills that have been filed this year. So by the time I come here next time, I will be able to give you a better sense of what that's about. The bill that we heard today that had a great deal of attention was a smoke-free workplace. And I know there's an effort to bring that idea to Clinton. This is something that has to be approved locally by the towns. But if that smoke-free workplace comes into effect, if that's voted in, quite frankly, that would mean all workplaces in the state would automatically be smoke-free. That includes restaurants. And I know you have some restaurants that are already smoke-free here in Clinton. So I'd be interested to know what you think of the idea, whether you think it's a go here. You know, it would be something that you'd have to vote on if we continue on the way we're doing.
Well, we did have the Board of Health come before us several weeks ago, and we will be having a non-binding referendum question at the annual election that will ask that question about having smoke-free restaurants and bars. No, it excludes bars, correct?
Bars.
It's just restaurants, and it's a non-binding referendum question. So that issue has come before the board already, and we have agreed to put it on the annual town meeting, annual town election.
Well, about 2/3 of the people, of the residents of Massachusetts live in communities now that have smoke-free restaurants. Right, so the statistics show that it hasn't hurt the restaurants. That was our concern, that it would be bad for business, but it's not bad for business. They seem to be doing quite well. So I would hope that, I'd be interested to see what happens as a result of your referendum. You're doing it the right way. You're doing it exactly the right way.
And just to follow up, I know that I had brought the issue to you that I had read in the Beacon about the governor proposing to start taking some funds out of the lottery money. And that concerns me even more with the fact that, as you mentioned, that obviously there'll be less revenue over the next 3 years, $1 billion plus. And I think that would certainly, it would have to be a fund that perhaps more people would be looking at to find as another source of funding some programs. And I really and truly hope as our state senator, and certainly we will send that message hopefully to our state representative as well, that we hope that that isn't something that they decide to do down in Boston, start raiding that fund, because it was set up exclusively to come back to cities and towns, and I hope that doesn't ever become something that they start going into to supplement programs.
I would agree with you, and if you look carefully at the governor's budget, I think you will find that the money that he is going to use to pay for this budget is coming from the sky, if you will. It's coming.
Fuzzy math.
It's smoke and mirrors, and it's raiding every fund he can find. And he's raiding the lottery. He's raiding the tobacco settlement.
I was going to say the cigarette tax.
He is raiding everything he can find in order to find the money to make up for the $330 million that he urged people to vote for in November. That's wrong. That's just wrong, because we're going to feel it in so many ways. The lottery money is going to affect the way you budget. It's going to make a tremendous impact on each town. And we shouldn't be putting you in that position. The tobacco settlement, well, is very dear to me because I was closely involved in it. That's our children's future. I mean, that's taking the money out that would be used, put in trust in order to pay for the future healthcare needs of our children and probably even their children. And it's just the wrong way to budget. You don't do that. Businesses don't do that. Businesses that want to stay solvent don't do that. And we're really a giant business. We should handle ourselves like a business and not play fuzzy math and do smoke and mirrors. And hopefully the House budget will be much more based on solid figures, and the Senate budget will be based on solid figures. And I don't think it's possible to represent the 1st Worcester District, including Clinton, and do anything with that lottery money other than to make sure that every penny of it that you deserve comes to you. So I'm very sensitive to that issue, extremely so.
Any of the other selectmen have? I know that Jerry brought in about the infrastructure.
I gather you've really had some problems with the infrastructure. Tell me about how badly the flooding, the rains have done it.
Well, the result of the runoff and the snow melt and the water all at once, and it flooded our sewer system up pretty bad here. We moved over 2 million gallons of water from the pumping station down to Vale Street. But we need a lot of work in our infrastructure.
And I know that just because I don't want to forget now that Jerry brought it up, because certainly the board is very sensitive to the fact that literally for a week they were around the clock up on Berlin Road, our DPW employees, and they just did a phenomenal job and really kept what could have been a devastating blow to that whole section of town. They just worked around the clock and found a way to really work miracles. And we really, on behalf of the board, Jerry, being a DPW employee, we really commend you and the department. You guys did a phenomenal job. So,
Madam Chair, may I make a suggestion? Because this is not the first time we've talked about the infrastructure and the problems. I think I've talked about it with almost every one of you individually. But I think maybe the time has come, and you've just gone through a crisis, basically, in the last week. where you have to start developing a plan for how you're going to replace the infrastructure that you have. You've got to come with a plan that is, this is what we need this year, this is what we're going to do year 2, year 3, and so forth. Does that?
That's being worked now. The
Okay.
DPW superintendent has begun a process of, reviewing streets within the community, as well as not just from a paved standpoint, but from a sewer line standpoint and a water line standpoint. And it's a matter of kind of merging the 3 levels of infrastructure: water, sewer, and actual road. And so that's being worked. That I'd like to see, and we're looking forward to seeing phase 1 of that project plan in the next couple months.
Because what I should try to do is see if there's any money that might be available for just that kind of infrastructure work that you might be able to apply for. And I think that might make sense. If you've got the need and you've got a plan, what's out there that we can see if you can get?
Well, 3 years ago, we had money for water mains and stuff to put in new water lines, which was, great help. That since dried up too. If anything out there would be a great help.
I'd be interested with the several major storms that we had, the governor declaring state of emergency.
Right.
And the flooding situation. Now, we didn't lose homes, again, thankfully to the hard work of the DPW, but certainly, overtime budget and subcontracting out to pumping trucks and whatnot. The town's going to incur probably, $60,000 to $100,000 bill just for that one service that had to be done. Otherwise, we would have experienced $1 million
Right,
worth of
right.
damages.
Right.
So it was money well spent. But I'm
Have you
hoping that
applied for anything like that?
I believe they're in the process.
Yes,
Both
the
the
superintendent,
superintendent
right.
is and working with the various department heads. But it's that's going to be critical that.
If our office can help you in any way, please be in touch with us so that we can
We'll certainly
do
send that
that.
message to the
because,
superintendent.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
That's what emergency funds are for,
Right.
and you should get your share of it.
Right.
And, the fact that you worked hard, and it was, blood, sweat, and a lot of hard work that
Right.
kept you from being a catastrophe here, doesn't mean that you should not be, compensated for that as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
So I think that makes sense.
Great.
Is there anything else? Is there anything I've asked you this before, but as we move closer to the Senate budget, I need to know, and Representative Naughton needs to know too, what, if any, your needs are, if you need any special funding. This is going to be a tough year for us. I don't want to fool you and say that it's going to be easy, because it's not. But I don't want to overlook something that shouldn't be overlooked here, that there's a need that maybe fits in the right place.
Well, we can certainly, again, I just reiterated some of the thoughts that I had
Yeah.
about what's occurred in the last several weeks since you last came to us, but formally to sit down and to put something in black and white to have you bring down, we haven't at this point, but we certainly will do that, a fact-finding session where we can really sit down and brainstorm the whole thing and say, look at what is actually, as you said, money's going to be less than it was last year. So, we have to be, I think, very selective as to what we would
I think you do.
look to see, which is like the most important issue for the town. And so, because they're, when you're dealing with an old town and many problems in the infrastructure and just the daily operation of a community, it's hard to pinpoint and to actually say what is one thing is more important than another. And certainly, that's something that we need to do between now and, as you said, the
Actually, you should be thinking about it right now for Representative Naughton.
Yeah, clearly the infrastructure is, I
It
think
sounds
we're
like
all,
that's the most
clearly that's
important thing.
number
Right.
one. One issue that I see, and especially with an economy that's clearly just spinning out of control right now, is some attention paid to, you're going to have people similar to the early 80s that are going to go through a job cycle change here, leaving careers that they've been in for years and years. I think we're going to need to start paying attention to
Retraining.
unemployment, retraining.
And we can help you with that.
That's going to be a critical for people, in our community that do have job losses in whatever industries they're in. that retraining, not to lose focus on the fact that, people that get back on the payrolls of different companies become taxpayers again,
Absolutely.
which then increase our revenues for the state. So that's, it's certainly not on the same par as our infrastructure issue, but I think it's an important thing to pay attention to as we have an economy that's clearly out of control.
Well, it's interesting, your infrastructure is much longer term.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem as immediate, but it does. Your most recent situation is immediate. For the people who are going to be out of a job, it's life and death.
They'd rather drive over the pothole and have another job.
Absolutely. But you have to start thinking as a town about how you're going to deal over the long term with something that if you don't deal with it, that you're leaving it to the next generation to have collapse here. I mean, we're hearing the same thing, by the way, from the University of Massachusetts, because their buildings are starting to crumble. They have had deferred maintenance for a long time. And, you can only defer it so long.
Sure.
You've deferred your maintenance too. Most of us, that's, but at some point, you've got to sort of, face the music and deal with it.
Sure.
And I think that that's what we really need to start to think about. And I really look forward to seeing if we can work together for the infrastructure plan and how we can structure it and where we might find the money. And there are places to look, and we need to look at that together, really.
Yes.
And I have, Carrie Carnes is still here. And,
Well, then, I guess from a formal request, I guess that would be, it certainly appears that is the most pressing issue for us, would be the infrastructure. And suppose, I guess from that perspective, that if there's any way that you can look into, are there
we can do that.
any avenues that we need to be approaching, whatever?
Bridge programs, those type
Right,
of
you
things,
know.
bridges.
Anything that's even coming available,
Yeah, if there's anything that you folks know of that we should be looking at or should be applying for,
All right. We will get back to you. That will be something, Carrie, we will try to come in our next meeting in the first week of May with some ideas for you of where you might go. Hopefully I will be in touch with you before that so that you can start looking into this yourself. We're both going to have to work at this. It's like two separate paths that merge together.
No, just like in the late 80s and the early 90s, they had some wonderful programs where, if the state was to bond, the town was to bond, just say the town did $3 million for infrastructure work. There are wonderful grant programs out there that, you could apply for. And so, your $3 million could become $5 million. And so it afforded you that opportunity to do an enormous amount of infrastructure work, both sewer and water for the town. And, the town has been very successful through the planning board and through the board of selectmen with developers coming in. And, we have a moratorium against this, that for every 2 gallons that they were taking, every gallon putting in, they had to take 2 out. So we have done some very creative negotiating along the way to have a tremendous amount of infrastructure work done. And when I say tremendous, if you look at all the roads and the streets in this town, we have just barely touched, and we've done an enormous amount of it. But it had been, 100 years that any major work had been done, and so we have a system that needs a lot of work in a lot of areas, and we're constantly working at it, but much needs to be done.
I give you credit for talking about it because infrastructure is not sexy. Infrastructure is not a capital program that people can touch and feel. They feel it, but it's sort of an invisible. When it doesn't work, you sure know about it. But when it does work well, nobody thinks about it. And as long as it's just getting along, you probably push it off to the side. But I think you've had a scare in the last week, and you've been taught. You knew that this was coming, but this brought this flooding, the sewers problem really brought the whole thing to a head.
We are afforded the opportunity to speak about infrastructure at all of our supermarkets, pharmacies, and anywhere else we're located in town.
It's on everyone's
And another problem that I get too is that the safety issue is that the sidewalks even in the town are so badly deplorable, they're chewed up, and people have come to me saying, I'm afraid to walk my child in the stroller on the sidewalk because The sidewalks are
Right in
gone, I don't
front,
want to
yeah.
walk on, I don't want to walk on the street.
Some of them are non-existent, Mark.
Yeah, that even, I mean, they're bad, yeah. That's another, I guess it ties in with infrastructure.
I think it does, and I think you're going to develop a program, and we'll start looking for where we can find some money to help you. And
It's funny because we're dealing with, you talk in total agreement, infrastructure, long-term project planning, and really a constant plan of maintenance so you don't fall so far behind.
Exactly.
But then we have other issues with a macroeconomic condition that we're in now where things are really in a downturn across the board. That, then we need to look as a community, we need to look to the state and to the federal government to spur small business and industry to get them new businesses started and people in new careers and things like that. So there are a couple different issues that really need attention.
I think you're right, and I think you just said something that was really important. It's not just the state that is your partner here.
No.
It is the federal government as well, and I know that the congressman is a great supporter of these very kinds of things. So that I would think that working with him as well as with the state, we ought to be able to find whatever money is available. I wish this were a few years ago when money was just a little more available. We'll try to do the best we can, but we'll see what's there, and we'll see what we can get you to qualify for, and what the buzzword today is public-private partnerships, where the state puts in money, the town puts in money, and private industry puts in some money as well. That has worked in many communities. Let's see what's available. Let's see what the requirements are, and let me get back to you about it, and we can talk about that at the next meeting. Are there any other issues that we should be thinking about? It sounds, what you're saying is, other than your infrastructure, things look pretty good right now. Knock on wood.
Well, I think we've worked really hard at it, really, Senator. I mean, we had the water filtration issue, and, we worked very successfully in securing the interest-free money. Just $10 million could have been devastating had we not done that and had to pay interest on $10.2 million. The town has made a tremendous financial commitment to the education of our children with the rehabilitation of the middle school and the building of the new high school, and now the new elementary school. And so that's been a tremendous commitment by the taxpayers of this town. And we've done, renovations to our town hall and our police station and our fire station, and certainly the beautiful Corcoran House. And I think the board has been very proactive and has really, I think, done a tremendous job in addressing all of these issues and staying on top of the major things that needed to be addressed. And I guess really from the perspective that we are working hard, and we have a lot of subcommittees going, and Max is the chairperson of the subcommittee for the elementary school. So Jerry's on the tax rebate, and Mark and I both serve on the water filtration. Mark is on the recycling, and Dino's on committees. I mean, we all share, positions on committees that are very important to the overall operation of the town, other than sitting as select people. So, I guess from the perspective that would be...
It spurred another thought in my mind.
Tell me.
Mark works very hard on waste and
Solid
recycling,
waste, yeah.
and that is just a huge cost burden. So again, avenues there that the state's looking at for assistance. I know they've
Are you
opened up.
recycling?
We are not curbside recycling.
Not
We
curbside.
We have a
recycling
recycling center.
Not curbside.
Curbside, the costs
That's
appear to be.
worked so incredibly well in Worcester, and we were so afraid of it, so afraid of it, because we were afraid that, to charge somebody 50 cents for a plastic bag to put their recycling in, to leave them a basket to put their solid, more their cans and things in, would just never work. It has worked unbelievably well. Politicians who ran against it, and there were, sort of bite their tongue and take the kudos now for the wonderful things that have happened. You have a landfill here.
No, we don't.
No, you don't.
No, we don't.
It's
See,
capped.
It's capped.
it's capped.
And obviously, you don't want another landfill to open because,
I don't believe we would be able to anyways. It's only 1,700 feet from the reservoir.
okay,
So,
because that's another
very
effort
sensitive of that
that's
issue.
happening that
Yeah.
we've got to be careful about, that we don't have any more landfills.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't going to work. We have another bottle bill that would, expand upon the recycling, in fact.
The only bad part about it is nobody wants a landfill, but
In
there's
your
no
back-
place to take it, for you pay $90 a ton to get rid of it.
It's just, I see that as another cost. We
Right.
talked about when you first started off with the healthcare costs spiraling, waste management is spiraling out of control, and it almost to a point of a monopoly type of situation we're in with some of the companies that are moving waste
Right.
into
Well,
landfills.
Well, just as an
There's only
example,
about 3
right.
of them that are
Yeah.
in the store.
As an example,
Nationwide.
when we
Yes.
closed our landfill, since we've closed our landfill, which was mid to late, I think it was 1985, 86, and so obviously we had to start paying to tipping fees, and if the amount was, say, $25 at that time, we're now over $80 a ton. So, and
And
as
haven't
Jerry
increased
said,
anything.
and as Jerry said, there are less and less places that you have options to go to. So it's, and as Max said, I mean, there's monopolies everywhere, whether it be utilities or what have you. So it's become a very serious situation, so.
What about your energy costs? How is that going to, what's that going to mean to your budget this year?
We just stacked it on a transfer.
Transfer,
So
yeah,
you had a transfer,
Yeah.
Yeah, just for the heating and the
Yeah.
lights.
yes. And we've realized that, see, the way it's set up is all the town departments fuel their vehicles from the town by DPW. And, we all know what we're paying for fuel. And so all of those, energy, anything to do with energy, everyone is realizing some serious ramifications because of it.
Yeah.
Could not have budgeted for it, could never
It's
could have.
not-
No.
What's occurring does not make sense. There are different parts, basic parts of the economy that are almost playing catch up. They didn't ride the economic boom of 3 or 4 years ago. And now all of a sudden people are paying, whether it was gas prices that have jumped 50 cents a gallon a year and a half ago to now, whether it be natural gas or oil, electrical,
Electricity's going up.
with no rationale, no honest
There is
rationale.
no rationale, and
No.
frankly, it's of concern because we just deregulated the whole electrical industry, and we did so with very good intentions. That's all I can tell you, with very good intentions, and the belief that when we did so, we would save everybody money. It hasn't worked that way, and if anything, we seem to have a greater problem than ever. So, things are out of control in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And these have to impact you as a town in making out your budget. When will your process be through?
Well, a lot of it depends on, what we hear from the State House.
Okay. We'll get you the cherry sheet figures as quickly as we can.
Let me just tell you, we went to town meeting last year on June 13th. And our town bylaw says that our town meeting is supposed to commence on the last Monday in April. But certainly that would be very premature for the town of Clinton.
You're not going to be able to do that this year.
Certainly not. So that's why we've had to defer until we could get some solid figures from the State House. Obviously, it's impossible for you to be able to,
As soon as we can get
Budget.
the cherry sheets. And they should be coming through very shortly, and we'll just be on top of it and
Yep.
get you the numbers,
Oh, we
as I'm
appreciate
sure
that.
Representative Naughton will too. But we can't do it until the numbers are
Correct.
available. Another issue that you probably are aware of is that your census is growing. I mean, those are numbers that interest everybody right now too. So we will be very much on top of your numbers and get them to you so that you can develop a rational budget. Otherwise, you're building it on the same smoke and mirrors that
Right.
the governor built his.
Right.
You've been very kind, and you've
Well,
given
thank
me a
you,
lot of
Senator.
time, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I will plan to come back on the, I guess it's the 2nd of May.
Okay.
So I'll see you then, and thank
Thank
you
you
very
very
much.
much.
And we'll
Thank you,
try to
Senator.
get some of those answers for you.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. We have review of minutes, and the Minutes that are available for the board are March 21st, department head meeting and selectmen meeting, and March 28th, budget meeting. What's the pleasure of the board?
Also moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Mary? Are you Mary?
Yes.
Would you like to come forward? Mary, if you could just give us your name and address for the secretary.
Mary Davis, business address is 287 Road Street in Worcester.
Okay, and you're with the Worcester Regional Transit Authority. And,
Yeah, I'm the administrator of the Worcester Regional Transit Authority, relatively new to my position, was appointed about a year ago. And I guess I can still be considered new since my predecessor held the position for about over 25 years. And what I've been doing over the past couple of months is going around to the member communities, of which Clinton is one, of the WRTA district, and just introducing myself to the elected officials in the towns, or in the case of Worcester, the city. And basically, that's the purpose of my visit. I thank you for putting me on the agenda, and my intention was just to take a few minutes of your time. And the WRTA provides two kinds of services to Clinton. One is a fixed route bus service that operates to Worcester. I think there's about nine trips a day on that service. The other kind of service is paratransit service that's provided to your senior citizens and disabled members of the community. And basically, I just wanted to hear if there were any comments, questions, whatever.
just as a comment, I know that your service certainly provides much-needed transportation for a number of folks. I think that, it's a means of transportation to some degree for these people to get to their job places. Mm-hmm. And certainly very much appreciated. And certainly, if those individuals didn't have that opportunity, it would put them in a very desperate situation. So to commend you people for providing that service.
Right, and I'm sure a lot of the people here, as they are in other parts of the WRTA district, are transit dependent. They just don't have a lot of options. Mm-hmm. And in many cases, the WRTA is their only choice.
Absolutely.
And the town contributes towards the cost of those services. I think when I checked the cherry sheets, I think for this year we're down for about approximately $50,000. Mm-hmm. And the state picks up about 75% of the net cost of those services. Mm-hmm. The town's generally about 25%. So I think it's a pretty good deal for the communities. Mm-hmm. It's a way of getting needed transportation without the full cost coming out of your budget. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't realize, it's a service that's provided, like, say, for the elderly and stuff, and much-needed service.
That's true.
It's
I know
something
we changed the route this year to go
include
up to the
hospital.
hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and that's been a definite benefit. I know several people have utilized that within the community, not, and it's again helping those that are in need for mode of transportation. So that willingness to change route and to go up to the hospital was definitely greatly appreciated.
Right. We have pretty much a standard procedure. If anybody has a suggestion for a service change, whether it be one person or a petition signed by 1,000 people, the request goes to our service committee and we discuss it. We have our planning people and operations people. And then they'd make a recommendation to me and I'd make a recommendation to the advisory board. And one thing I did want to mention, obviously Clinton is a member of the WRTA, and you do have the option, if you so choose, to send a representative to the WRTA advisory board. And the advisory board meets probably about 10 times a year. The meetings generally are about an hour in duration, and the main job of the advisory board is to approve service changes and to approve the budget. So I just thought I would mention that to you.
Thank you. Anyone have any other questions for Mary? Well, again, thank you so much for coming in. It's a
Thank you
pleasure
very
meeting
much.
you, and continued good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Kim?
No, it's,
Oh, that's right, that's next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Pardon. Okay, we have a manager change for Clinton Turner. Are you John Smith?
No, like
Oh.
Kevin Lamb.
Oh,
I'm a member of the House Committee.
yeah. I should put my glasses on.
alias John Smith.
Yeah, Haley.
Alias John Smith. Where are my glasses? Kevin, I'm sorry. Okay, we have a request for a manager change. And you want to just tell us about it? It's just a,
Yeah, the reason being is that Carol Cutler's been the manager down there for
yeah, here we
a
are.
few years now.
Yep.
She resigned. The Board of Directors and the House Committee, which I happen to be on, they're proposing that John Smith become the new bar manager. We'd like to get the license changed from Carol's name to John's name.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Board have any questions? What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to grant the request to change it from Carol Cutler to John H.M. Smith.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thanks,
Thank you.
Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Have a good night.
Okay, we have a livery license, public hearing for 79 Beacon Street. Application from Dale Gorski, doing business Falcon Coach, to take over from Frank Gorski Jr. Is there anyone here?
I don't think so.
Michael, do you know if anyone's coming here for this request? I mean, it seems,
We know Ms. Gorski had been contacted and he
okay. Well, it seems fairly straightforward. I don't know if the
I
board has
make a
any
motion
problem.
that we issue the license, a livery license to.
Well,
Dale
it's a
Gorski.
public hearing, so,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
So I just, if
Just
we,
in
do we
the-
want to go forward? We'll
Sure,
go forward with the
sure,
hearing? Okay. Being it's a public hearing, obviously, we need to ask if anyone is here to speak against this. Move that close. Anyone to speak for it? Move that close. What's the pleasure of the board?
It's okay now?
Just want to make it official.
I make a motion that we grant Dale Gorski a livery license
Second.
as Falcon Coach.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in,
Discussion,
Yes.
Madam Chair. The parking situation there has to be somewhat rectified. They're parking on sidewalks there, and I'd like to see that practice end. But I'm definitely in favor of granting the
Okay.
license.
all right, well, we can make sure, Michael, that that point is,
Send out the approval, we could put a note in there, I can write a note to them indicating the board is concerned about parking and ask them to come up with a plan to try and rectify. Now, are we looking to not have parking in that neighborhood at all, or? to get-
Well, it just seems like they had, it might have changed, Mike, due to the change of ownership or whatever, but there was a unregistered motor vehicle parked right on a sidewalk, so just something like that, I don't want to see that happening there.
I mean, if you can just notify them of the concern.
You know, park on their own property, that would be fine.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, we've got the livery license renewals.
Yes, that's just one renewal, that would be for Gus Dairy.
Clinton Limo Service.
Right, Clinton Limo Service. We had held up on putting this forward to the board because the Gorski license was coming in, and then they canceled, and they didn't come in, and we just overlooked getting this one. So just to make it official and legal for him to have it for his current year, we just wanted to have it go to the board just to renew it.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to grant the request for a Clinton limo service, Algeria
I'll second.
renewal.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Yeah, yeah, Mike. Want
Why
to
don't you
come up?
guys switch places so that we can hear you for the administrator's report?
Yeah, come over here.
Okay.
Okay.
It's quite the...
We have a long list here.
Administrator's report, you know.
Yes,
Okay.
there's quite a few items.
You
I mean, a
ready,
lot
Joe
of-
Lisa?
There are a lot of town hall uses and a lot of other items, so
Okay.
this is one of the issues with getting this, this week's packet. I was in Boston yesterday, I was trying to get all this information on this sheet here, so, but
Okay.
we accomplished it, so it's here. The first is a request from the Little League to hold tag days throughout the town of Clinton from April 19th through the 21st.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion, we grant the request.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
The second is a request to use the Town Hall Auditorium from Friday, May 4th, from 11 a.m. to 2:30. This is coming from Al Cotton from Nitro. They're going to be hosting a Good Scout banquet that day on behalf of the Boy Scouts of America.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion, we grant the request.
Second.
Any discussion?
Madam Chief, go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say, under discussion, we got nine requests here. I was going to make a motion that we put a temporary freeze on this until we can sit down, hopefully sometime soon, and start delegating some new fees, depending if it's a civic or a private organization.
Well, that's part of
Actually, yeah.
our
So-
discussion.
What I was going to bring up prior to, at our 6 o'clock, we set a date of the 25th of April to
Okay.
set policy. So what, under discussion, Madam Chair, I was going to say,
Yes.
we, if the dates are available and it's agreeable to the board, these requests are all approved as we go one by one, that they're all approved contingent upon them accepting the terms and policies that we set on the 25th.
Yes,
Yeah.
that would be helpful, because then it would give the organizations an opportunity to schedule their event, and if they need to contract any bands, I know there are a couple of the organizations, they don't want to actually sign contract until they had approval, so if it is approved, subject to that, I'm sure they would be happy, and they know that they would have to conform with the new regulations. So.
Part of what we discussed, Mike, Mark, was the entire board with the administrator and hopefully with solicitor, and to set policy and stuff on the 25th.
Only April 25th.
Because we've been talking about it, and it's just been through no fault of anyone's. We've just been so much going on, and that we just felt, because, you know, as we're all saying, we have 9 or 10 requests this evening, that we really need to sit down and not to talk about it, but to actually physically do it.
Do it, right.
So we set the 25th, and we hope that
Beautiful.
everyone can be there.
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds good.
Okay, so under the discussion, it would be just,
For the Boy Scout banquet.
okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
The next, and there are quite a few, so I don't know if you want to read them all and take them individually or in tandem.
Okay, we'll take them.
Well, let's do them individually. The next is from the Tribune School, Lancaster, to use the town hall on Saturday, May 12th, from 6:30 to 11, to host their spring auction to raise money. They're looking to build an arts and athletics center at their school, and this is a fundraiser for them.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make the motion, we grant the request.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All
Again,
those-
these are all contingent.
The dates are good.
Okay. And that will be with, for the sake of discussion, that will be
Stipulated.
consistent with all of the requests and all of the approvals this evening.
Right. Yeah, and all these dates have been coordinated by Jolie so that they are available, and they have been in contact with her and done letters, so it's all coordinated, just a matter of get the approvals and then have them get the actual okay once the policy's in place.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
The next is Immaculate Heart of Mary School to use the auditorium on Friday, May 25th, from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. to host their school play entitled The Glass Slipper.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to grant the request for the Immaculate Heart of Mary School.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
The next is from the Performing Arts Theater of Sterling to use the Town Hall Auditorium for Friday, June 15th and Saturday, June 16th to host their annual spring concert.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion that we
Second.
give the authority to the Performing Arts Theater of Sterling.
Motion made by
I'll
Mark,
second.
seconded by Jerry. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Lancaster Coffee House is requesting the use of the auditorium October 20th from 1 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. to set up and host a folk act entitled Eddie from Ohio. And this event will be to raise funds for the town of Lancaster 350th anniversary.
Eddie who?
I make a motion that we grant the Lancaster Coffee House access for October 20th for Eddie from Ohio.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
And the organizers did indicate that the tickets are going very quickly already on this, and they are having some good success. So if any of the board members, they wanted to invite the board to attend and to let us know, we can get the tickets for you if you wanted to reserve. So. The next is the Wachusett Chamber of Commerce, again requesting the town hall for Thursday, November 8th from 6 to 10. Will host their 4th annual Taste of the Wachusett Region.
What's the pleasure of the
I'll
board?
make the motion, we grant the request.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in
Aye.
favor?
On the discussion, they would like a liquor license for all that too on their paper here. For
Yeah, I think what we
for
could
one
do.
day.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
we're
think
thinking
on the additional.
Oh, all right,
This
all
is
right.
just for the hall.
Yeah, we could secure the dates, and then we'll
Yep.
have them, once they get approved for the dates, we'll have them fill out forms for the one-day beer and wine. So I think there was another, the next event was also asking for the one-day beer and wine. And this way, we'll get the proper insurances and the form and the fee and everything, and bring
This is
that
just
separately.
securing the
All right,
dates.
sure. All right, I'll
Any other
grant the
discussion?
request.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
The next is St. Mary Elementary School to use the town hall Saturday, November 10th, to host their annual auction to raise funds for their school.
I'll make a motion that we grant the request for St. Mary's Elementary School.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
The next is the Holiday Pops Foundation, on behalf of the Clinton Holiday Pops Committee, to use the town hall for Saturday, December 8th, hosting the annual Holiday Pops concert with the Thayer Symphony Orchestra.
It's the pleasure of the board.
I make a motion that we grant the Clinton, I'm sorry, where is it there, Symphony Orchestra?
Holiday Pops.
Yeah, for the Clinton Holiday Pops.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
The
Not me.
next is
That was your face.
The next is for the Parks and Recreation Commission, requesting the use of the auditorium for February 1st from 7:30 to 11 p.m. to host the 25th Annual Daddy-Daughter Dance. They would like to have an alumni dance that night, and we're looking for a bigger venue to hold that so they can invite people that have been there throughout the years to come to that.
I make a
25
motion,
years.
I make a motion that we grant the Parks and Rec access to Town Hall for February 1st.
2002, sorry, right, 2002.
Second the
I'll
motion.
second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
We had quite a few requests there. It's, the hall's very busy, it's almost weekly being used, and it's nice to see. The next is a request for a sewer connection application. This was forwarded by the building inspector on behalf of Mr. Ronald Lizard and Ms. Christine Brzezinski. They're building a home on Wilson Street. The building permit, they have construction crews that are scheduled, available to start work. They have a building permit is not yet signed. The building inspector's policy is until all permits are in place, he will not issue a building permit. So until they have a sewer connection approval, he will not issue a building permit, which means they can't start work on their house. This falls under the moratorium that the board placed on any new connections due to unknown need for the filtration plant and for the elementary school. And it appears, although some of the elementary school numbers are in dispute, it does appear that between the two projects that there is excess and that there is gallons available. I met with these two individuals in my office today. They did choose and request and choose to come tonight, so They are here in the audience. If the board has any questions for them or any concerns, I'm sure they'd be available to ask any.
Sure.
I just have one, are we, is this a 3-for-1? Are we tagging a 3-for-1 here in Gallinich, or?
Not to remove. I think what we would do if somebody's going to repair, this is for a single-family home, and this was in the past that for town projects, it's for single-family homes, owner-occupied, that they could pay the fee and get the gallons from our sewer bank. If a developer or someone has to do repairs to get the gallons, they would have to do 3-to-1 as opposed to the 2-to-1 that the board had voted to do. So they're just looking it would be cost prohibitive for them to do the repairs in order to get the gallons for one home. So they're just asking for permission. I had informed the building inspector at the board's vote a couple months ago that no new connections could be approved without the selectmen's consent. So this is just asking for the selectmen's approval to allow them to get the building permit and get the sewer connection. So.
Well, saying that they're here, I mean, I certainly would afford them an opportunity if they do want to speak. Do either?
We don't have anything really to say or add to it. We're just in the process, and we'd like to see approval for it. So.
Okay. You're rolling, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone have any questions from the board? Okay.
Make a motion that we grant this request for permit.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Any discussion?
No?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
No loose dogs now on that property.
So we'll inform the building inspector in the morning, and he should be able to issue the permit forthwith at that point.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Okay.
The next item the board took out of order was for a transfer request to pay some unpaid bills of oil charges for the town hall that the board has already approved, and just to be on record that was approved earlier in the department head meeting and has been forwarded to the finance committee that they're meeting as we speak for their action on that issue. So,
I'd like to thank Whitney Oil for their patience on that bill, too.
Absolutely.
it has been a while with the price of power, both oil and electricity this year. It did go over budget, and with the cold season, we've been using a lot more than we anticipated. So it has been a while that they have been delivering, and they're waiting for payment, so we appreciate that.
Been very patient. Thank them.
Yeah, absolutely. On the traffic committee report, obviously it speaks of the holiday warehouse on Main Street, and essentially that they've come with some recommendations. Do either Dean or Mike, do you want to bring us up to date as to actually where all of that is down there?
Well, at this point, we're just looking for the board's backing to do this. I think the company is going to do it anyways. We have the report the last meeting. We just wanted to give the board a chance to think it over, review it before they take any action. So I'm just bringing it up into old business tonight. There was some proposals that Mr. Sabanthus had offered at the traffic committee report. The company thought were reasonable. At this point, at least, there were two issues. There was the traffic issues holding up, the truck loading, backing in that was holding up traffic. And then there were some concerns of the board about damage that has been done to the area down there from the trucks. So because at that point there was still snow on the ground, we just dealt with the traffic issue right now. The company felt there were some reasonable suggestions, and I think they're already moving forward on those. So they're probably going to implement them, but we just wanted to see if this was sufficient for the board at this time. Something we can always review in a couple of months if it's still not working out, but if the board would endorse this route for now and see how it works. Now the spring is coming, it's something we can pursue. Some of the sidewalk issues, the curbing of the sidewalk, the damage down there from the trucks as they're pulling in and backing in and parking there. That's something I think we can pursue, but at least on alleviating some of the congestion on Main Street, if the board feels this is a good start, at least, we just wanted kind of a feedback from the board.
If I may comment, I have yet to be stuck in any traffic down there, and I go to work that way quite a bit. And also, every time I have been by, they are sticking to that one tractor trailer in that one bay. So it seems like they are making an effort to to resolve some of the problems there.
Good. Okay, so the board is comfortable then with what the committee has worked with?
So you'd like a motion?
Yes, the board
to,
just motion to endorse.
accept the recommendation.
Right.
Okay. Is the board prepared to do that?
Sure. I'll make a motion that we accept the traffic committee's recommendations and direct Holiday to adhere to the traffic.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any
I
discussion?
guess under discussion, I'd just like to have maybe like a meeting with them within another month, just so we can make sure that we're making concessions that we want down there. Just because of the infrastructure damage that they did do down there, we'll be sure it gets addressed. That's all I have under discussion.
Any other
Sure,
discussion?
so we could have a member of the company
Any
come before
discussion,
the
I'd like
board.
to bring them to talk on it.
Yeah, even
Yeah,
that.
I'm gonna go, I just went to
Okay.
them
Then we can meet
first.
them
Sure.
all
I just
down
went to
at
Holiday first.
the site.
Yeah.
So at the next traffic committee meeting or something like that.
Okay.
Great.
Mark, you want him to meet with us or the traffic committee?
Both, I mean, you can come in front of the board and then with the traffic committee too. I mean, you know, anyone has a day, we can go down there.
And then most of the snow will be gone, I hope, and you can look at
Yeah, well, hopefully by then.
the damage.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, I went a little bit out of order. I went down to 3 just because of the issue with Holiday, and we had the letter there. But the committee is also recommending that a stop sign be placed at the intersection of Nashua and Grove Street. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion, we grant the request.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. They've also reviewed a letter from Corcoran House, and they're suggesting that no parking signs be erected in the middle of the bump out of the Church Street entrance to the Corcoran House. We would like to emphasize the earlier recommendation that such signs be paid for by the requesting party, and for the purpose of meeting all the state requirements, all such signs be erected by the DPW. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion, we grant the request for no parking signs to be paid for by the requesting party.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Madam Chair, I just have one question for the town administrator, because I know he's on the traffic committee, you would know this. Michael, when we enact on some places, how long before the sign would be erected? Just for like down on the corner of Grove and
I can talk to the DPW tomorrow.
sure they have to order the sign, and they have one in stock? Or?
Yeah, do they have them in stock or do you order them?
A lot of stuff is ordered, I don't know if that, yeah.
Yeah, so I can find out tomorrow what the lead time for the ordering would be, and then
Okay.
it's a matter of getting them up, so I'd say.
Stop sign should be in, but the no parking signs, I don't know.
They're also, I'm sorry.
So for the stop sign, at least, if that's
That's in.
in stock, it can be done very quickly.
Okay.
So I'll talk to the DPW
Great.
superintendent tomorrow and have them, let them know it's been approved.
Okay, super, thank you.
Also, there was a request from the Civil Defense. They're looking for a
I
transfer.
would like to postpone that.
Clinton
to a meeting
Emergency
with town
Management
council.
Agency, rather, excuse me. I'm sorry.
No, I would like to postpone that to a meeting with town council.
Okay, is there a second to postpone that or not move on the issue?
To meet with council.
Regarding the civil defense fund transfer.
And we
I
should,
second that.
That'd be more of like a town accountant though, or would that be town solicitor?
we should
Well, I mean,
pay
it's
the, we
really a
should pay
request
the
of the
bills.
board, so you're going to have to either,
Yeah. 'Cause that's
agree,
what-
you're either going to have to agree to pay the money or not.
Right.
And then,
Because a couple weeks ago, they were there, we tabled it because we wanted to check with the accountant on the
The
actual.
breakdown, we have the breakdown now in the packet.
The issue is we have good companies in this town that aren't being paid because of irresponsible management.
Yes.
It infuriates me, and it's ridiculous that someone went over 20% over budget without getting approval. And now we have companies in this town that are owed money, and I'm all in favor of paying these
We
people.
should pay the bills, absolutely.
But we need to address other issues with that individual.
Because they were notified not to spend anymore, they were over budget, and he still sent bills in after this, he
No, I
still
agree with
charged
that.
money.
So
So it's,
We need,
well, I wasn't there, I was not there that evening, so I don't feel it's appropriate for me to move on this anyways, because I wasn't there that evening, but...
Selectman Knoll really was.
But
Yeah, I was.
the
Yes,
point of it
we all were.
is, I think, yeah, I mean, obviously, quite frankly, I don't know how the solicitor can help us out on this. It's a request that comes to the Board of Selectmen.
yeah, no, it's,
So-
I think it's another issue that we're looking
Yeah.
to solicitor possibly
Yeah.
for
Right.
help. So, do we have a motion that's still on the floor to be withdrawn?
I'll withdraw it.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we pay this, or request this transfer
Go to
for the amount
Finance
of
Committee.
$1,200 to go to the Finance Committee for approval. And then we have further discussions with the Director of SEMA.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Michael, do you have the original?
Yeah, what I may do, it's actually a copy, but
Okay.
what I may do is if the board would sign it, I can bring it down to the finance committee now, and they may take up action on it, so.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion that we direct the manager of SEMA not to expend any more funds without Board of Selectmen approval.
Second.
Yes.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Anyone have anything under committee reports?
And Chuck, go ahead. Yeah.
Actually, I do, Madam Chair, on the, just informational, on the elementary school building project. There's some conceptual drawings that have been done for the access driveway abutting the fire station, and adopt a video possible. That I will get copies and share with the board. This is a proposal that has not been acted on by the building committee or the school committee as far as actually putting this in, but it's a potential traffic relief for Ash Street as far as an access way for delivery vehicles and things.
Well, it's being
Yeah,
dug up.
I showed the Madam Chair when we were in the parking lot. The fire department will not lose any parking spaces, and it would be a safer access as far as someone walking into the school area. and
You know what I
things
would
like that.
suggest, too, Mark, is perhaps now that it stays later, that before we came up, perhaps for our next meeting, that everyone could go down and you could basically show them where you...
Sure.
I think, because when I saw it, it
Yeah,
makes
you're
a lot of
talking about that,
sense.
where that gate is narrowed down, take that out of there and just,
Yeah.
yes.
Exactly. And this has been discussed with the fire chief. Obviously, he had concerns regarding parking, and I think with the design actually picking up one space, it should be something that's accommodating for all of our...
It would be good to get in and out with vehicles.
Yeah, and Ash Street is such a narrow road, you'd really, anything we can do to relieve
Yeah.
traffic there, this
I'm all
could
for it.
help us.
So I would suggest on the
Yes.
25th that we meet down there at 5:45.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
that go with everybody?
Yeah, it would-
5:45?
What date is that?
The
April
25th,
25th.
5:46?
Yeah.
That's when we have the meeting on the town hall funds too.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're going to meet at 6 on that, so we'll meet at 5:46
Following
down
down,
there.
okay.
So,
Sounds good.
yeah, just conceptually, I'll give this a copy to town administrator so you folks can have it in your
Yep.
mailbox, so you'll know what it is.
That's it.
But it's a good idea. Obviously, the cost would be incorporated within the school project, so there's no additional funds to the community that would be looking for. But it will, I think, help us with traffic flow and
Open
things
it
like
up,
that.
sure.
So, and obviously, the school building is beginning to get knocked down. The gym walls are almost entirely gone, and yes, a tractor was stuck in the dirt or wet mud yesterday, but it was also pulled out too. So that's where we stand. I believe they'll be having a groundbreaking ceremony either late April or early May.
Oh, great, super. Okay. Any other committee reports? Public comment? Okay, we'll be going into executive session under Article 3 in reference to a police civil service case.
I make a motion, we go into executive session under Article 3.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
It's a
Aye.
roll call. Requires a roll call.
Yes.
Mark?
Aye.
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 Chairman votes aye. Then when we finish that session, we will be going into executive session under Article 3 to discuss the town administrator's contract.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to go into executive session under Article 3 for the town administrator's contract.
Do we have a
Second.
second? All those in favor? Requires a roll call. Mark?
Aye.
Aye.